Alright, here is our second variant of the Delver deck that I'm going to talk about in this series. This is America Delver, and I actually really have a lot of respect for this deck. My friend Jack Gilchrist was playing this deck for a while I was testing with Rug Delver, and we were kind of making comparisons between like the difference between Rug Delver and America Delver because both of them have strengths and weaknesses. Rug Delver is much stronger against combo, whereas this deck is much stronger against aggro. Just with like the main deck life gain, like Lightning Helix is just a house against what's it called? Affinity and it's even good against John. Like the life gain is very relevant, and Red Deck Wins is the other one. But any aggro matchup, the life gain on Lightning Helix is amazing, and then the fact that you're able to snapcast it is awesome as well. The other thing that this deck has access to is the Geist Saint Draft, and I can't tell you how good this card is in Modern right now. It's just, if you're looking to play a creature in Modern that wins you games, like Geist Saint Draft and Deathrite Shaman are like the two go-to cards right now that are just like some of the best cards to be playing with right now. This card is so hard to deal with, and I like it in this deck just because one of this card's weaknesses is Liliana, which this deck is not that bad against because it has like Delver and Steplinks and Snapcaster, cards that you're playing a lot of the times earlier than Geist of Saint Draft, so they go to Liliana or play Liliana and make you sack. It's like, it's kind of awkward for them because if you're just sacking your 0/1 Steplinks that you don't have any fetches for anyways, and then you just like swing in again, and the early creatures allows you to protect this pretty well. And actually, when we talk about the new deck that I'm gonna recommend that people start, it's actually the one that I'm brewing with, and if you want to brew with it and make comments about maybe suggestions to it, Geist of Saint Draft is one of the inclusions to that deck. So we're running the Serum Visions. This card just makes hands capable. Like a lot of the times it's a one lander, but it has two Serum Visions, so it's just like a snap keep. Whereas like when you're running other cards in this slot for Serum Visions, you're really getting kind of greedy, and this card's just, I don't know. It's a really good card advantage. Like for one blue, a lot of the times you aren't doing anything on it. It gives you something else to do on turn one if you don't have a Delver or Steplinks in the hand, and it makes a lot of unkeepable hands very keepable. The Bolton Helix is obvious. This is an aggro deck. Like you really are just trying to burn them out as fast as possible with 4 or 5 Steplinks is, flipping your Delvers, snapcasting your burn, and then if you can hold open like the counter magic, Spell Snares is for like opposing Snapcasters and whatnot. And then like you can protect yourself with Mana Leak. A lot of people play Remand instead of Mana Leak, and I highly recommend you just do not play Remand. Like if you have the decision of playing Remand or Mana Leak, play Mana Leak. Like just getting rid of it is so much better, because like when they play like a 1 mana spell and you're holding Remand, it just sucks so much more that you have to like remand their Deathrite Shaman rather than just leak it, and they didn't have the 3 mana, so that he just gets rid of their Deathrite Shaman instead of them just being able to cast it again. And I understand the argument of like Remand draws you into your burn spells, but I don't think this deck needs any more help in actually killing their opponent. It just needs some help in like in the control, because again, your matchup against control is significantly worse than with Rug Delver. So playing your Remand and giving them like their Seething Song back is just not very good. You just kind of want to get rid of it forever. And you kind of see in the sideboard you have quite a bit of combo hate here. I actually just included the Aethersworn Canonist just because it's a body, and it prevents Storm from comboing off. But I don't know, I thought it was kind of a cute idea. But yeah, this deck is, I really like how fast this deck, and I really like that it just almost never loses any matchup against aggro. So if you're expecting a lot of Affinity, Red Deck Wins, kind of, I don't want to say stupid decks like that. Affinity is not a stupid deck. Red Deck Wins is kind of a stupid deck. But if you're expecting a lot of aggro or a lot of creatures that are weak to removal, then like even like a deck that's full of Deathrite Shamans or something, or Birds of Paradise or something like that, this deck does a great job at just like bolt, snapcasting, bolt all their threats, and even has access to Path to Exile for some of the bigger cards like Tarmogoyf, and we were talking about like Serra Ascendant, which again, Soul Sisters is like one of those decks that I don't even want to call it a deck because I really don't like it, and you'll hear me hate on that deck a lot. But I just I don't like the deck, but I'm aware that it exists in the metagame, so I kind of occasionally will like lean towards cards because I know it's good in that matchup. The problem with Soul Sisters is I don't think it's a good deck. It has some decent matchups, but it's really cheap, so a lot of people will buy into it, and so you'll see it from time to time if people just are short on money and are like, oh, I'll play Soul Sisters. And then, so yeah, going to the sideboard, this deck obviously doesn't have access to Ancient Grudge without the green. Adding the green for Ancient Grudge just seems really greedy on the mana base. But this deck actually has kind of a better version of it with the Smash to Smithereens. And you can run anywhere from 2 to 4 of these, but this card is very good. It's kind of like a Searing Blaze for artifacts, but better because it's easier to cast and you don't rely on the landfall. Again, you see negate showing up. Any variant of Delver, I would definitely have 1 or 2 negates in the sideboard. I would also have a high number of Spell Snare between the main and the sideboard, like at least 3, and then also a high number of Spell Pierce for any kind of Delver variant, because Spell Pierce, it's amazing with your Delver. Like, playing Delver and then revealing Spell Pierce is very, very good against any deck. I mean, even if, like, because they just can't play their Liliana, because you're just going to pierce it for 1 and untap and play like a Geist, and it's very hard for them to play around this card once you've revealed it. And you also even have the leaks as well. So you have a decent counterspell package. Definitely nothing on the level of Rug Delver, but the access to Lightning Helix, this card's very good. It's a little weak to Spell Snare, but other than that, it's just being able to kill something and keep yourself alive while you just kind of get there with your dudes is what you want to be doing. Molten Rain is actually, it's funny how often you side this card in, because there's certain matchups where you wouldn't really expect it to be good, because obviously right off the bat you'd be like, oh, that's your sideboard versus Tron, but like I've sided this card in against Affinity before because they have a lot of relevant lands, so there's a lot of applications for Molten Rain, which is why, and it deals the 2 damage still, so a lot like Smash to Smithereens, it kind of acts as a Searing Blaze, because this deck really wants to be like doing damage to their face, and so these 2 cards are really good in this deck. For red deck wins, even against Mirror, this card, Core Firewalker is very good, just because you gain the life off of every single one of your burn spells, and this is primarily for red deck wins. You don't really have like a huge amount of trouble against red deck wins, but it is a deck that you'll see, especially if you play this deck in like the 1 vs 1 queues on Magic Online, because Red Deck Wins is a cheap deck and people like to buy into it. Even like the red version of Affinity, I would bring in the Core Firewalker just to be gaining life, and having a dude in play is kind of nice. Canonist against Combo, and then Combust you obviously have for like Splinter Twin and Merfolk and matchups like that. So it's this is a really good list, and I recommend you pick it up. Again, if you're expecting a combo-y metagame, pick up Rug Delver, and if you're expecting an aggro metagame, then pick up America Delver. They're both very good decks. They just have different applications based on the tournament that you're going to and the metagame that you're expecting. And that's the second variant of Delver, and I'm actually going to talk about the third one here in a second.